Welcome back to Warzone Morloc 40k, the best Warhammer 40,000 channel you've never heard of. At this time, I'm joined by our good brother Poshnik.
Nice to be back.
Yeah, welcome back, Nick. We are today showcasing his brand new army, which is going to be a small collection of Adeptus Custodes, Custodian Guard, depending on how old you are, I presume. I say Custodian Guard because that's what they always were. And we're going to have a little...
I'm young. I say Adeptus.
Are you?
No. The hairline says differently.
Yeah, we're like two boiled eggs in here. This is really just a little sit and chat about Custodes in general. We know that the Codex has been delayed because of shipping issues worldwide, but we can still enjoy the current setup with Custodes. First of all, what an amazing model range.
Oh, yeah.
But we're going to have a chat with Poshnik. Stay tuned and look at the amazing paintwork and army choice of Poshnik's Custodes army. This video is brought to you by Triple Helix Wargames. For big discounts on Games Workshop products and more, check out triplehelixwargames.co.uk. First of all, what drew you to the Custodes?
I just love the whole style, everything about them, the whole, from Golden Light they come, everything about, all the fancy,
There's so much opportunity for innuendo in everything in this game.
Look at them, they're magnificent. How could you not have some
innuendo
with
these? The long,
these,
thick shafts of the jet bikes.
In your endo.
In your... Yeah, beautiful army.
So I love it. I love the actual models themselves are fantastic. It was just a different army to paint, something I'm not used to having such an elite army. Literally, short of a knight army, you're never going to have fewer models. This is 1,000 points, and there are a total of 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 models. 11 models in this army.
It's even better in Kill Team, isn't it? When you play as like 2 or 3 dudes.
Two, maybe, yeah, if you're lucky.
Which is awesome.
Yeah.
And when you first showed me this army, I was immediately jealous because I think that the jet bikes of this particular army are just the best models that they do. And the Terminators, as you'll see, I'll do some close-up footage as we're talking. The Terminators are wonderfully painted as well. So talk us through your army and why you've chosen some of these units.
This is just the very beginning. There's going to be a whole, for anyone who's a big Custodes fan out there, there's going to be a lot more coming up. I've got a lovely Telemon Dreadnought from Forge World coming up. I've got hopefully some Sagittarium Guard, who are the essentially normal Custodes, but they've got guns that are essentially heavy bolters and melter guns combined, or disintegrator guns combined, which is really cool. I've got lots of other units still to come, lots of people with the old sword and board, the sword and shield, because they are very popular at the moment. Obviously, the Custodes Codex coming out next year does mean that at the moment it's all guesswork and what's going to be good, but I think we can safely assume that many of the central units are going to still be really, really important, like the Virtus Praetors, the jet bikes. They are just, the movement of them, I just love everything about them. The fact that you're on it's a Custodes on a jet bike.
Well, let's talk about the jet bikes first. I mean, first of all, you've got a captain, or what are they called?
Captain on a Dawn Eagle jet bike. The Dawn Eagle is just what they're called generally. The captain, for anyone, once again, who's a Custodes fan, they are just the best model to have. I mean, Trajan Valoris, who's the head of the Custodian Guard, I've got a model, I'm going to paint it up, but the captain on a jet bike is so good, and especially since War of the Spider came out a little while ago, it changed everything. It improved so much about the way you can use them. You can now give them, beyond their initial Warlord trait, which already, from my one, I think I was going for, he's got 5+ feel no pain. He's got a relic, his jet bike is a relic jet bike that allows him to reroll charges and gives him a 3+ invulnerable save.
3+ is so rare in the game at the moment as well. I think 3+ is rancid, and I wonder if they'll keep that in the next book. Do you think they'll keep it?
I don't know. It's so
it might even be
good.
Perhaps a stratagem. Who knows?
Exactly. You just don't see 3+ invulnerable anywhere else at the moment. And on top of those initial points, then he can have the shield. I think shield captain is the additional warlord trait he can have, which can give him an extra 2 wounds, taking him up to 9. Or in the case I tend to go with strategic commander, lets him reroll any stratagems. You can try and get CP back on a 5+.
I think that's very good as well.
It's super.
Extra
it's so
9 wounds with a 3+ invuln save, and the speed of him as well.
That's it. And I mean, I'm hoping in the new codex they'll keep. I mean, the shield hosts they brought out in War of the Spider, they're so cool. Shadow Keepers are a very popular choice. Everyone loves them because they've got a stratagem that allows you to essentially get anyone attacking you in the fight phase to reduce strength characteristic attack by 1. So when you've already got such tough Custodian Guard, they make them so hard to kill. But I love these guys. These guys are the Dread Host. Okay. Now this is not that. I don't think this is the correct paint. I'm pretty sure they're supposed to be mostly black. I think the Dread Host are, but everything about them, the concept of them, they're brilliant. They get sent out basically to go and just massacre anyone that the Emperor or his loyal servants think need massacring, and they're the ones who go and do it. They do it on 3 like ancient battleships called the Moirides, and the stratagem that I just think is the best thing, which is I think it's 1 or 2 CP stratagem, which you can use when you're already bringing people in from a Godstrike teleportation chamber. How cool is Godstrike teleport?
Yeah.
In addition to that, with this stratagem, you can actually, the teleportation systems are so accurate, unlike the rest of the Imperium, where we like to, teleport people into solid rock because that's funny. Instead,
That's welcome to my world, man. Yeah.
They can actually
Usually
teleport.
you go, beam down, go, straight to hell.
How did I get here?
Yeah, thanks for coming. Chaos Terminators. How many times have I done that?
Instead, they can start running. They can start a charge on board their battleship, the Moirades, and appear mid-charge on the board. So you get to get a high number of.
Can you imagine that? So they're like beefing it along, and then they beam in, and they're already at full tilt.
Being the poor person who looks up and thinks that's a funny golden light, and all of a sudden there's 3 of these Terminators coming sprinting towards you.
Is that a train coming? No, it's even worse. It's
Far
even
worse. It's got axes.
Yeah,
it's got an axe.
Trains with axes.
And then obviously the thing with Custodians, which I'm finding as I start to play them, is that the normal guys are extremely good anyway, but there is no question there is a big appeal to go with the Forge World units, which can, if you are starting a Custodes army, be aware the normal stuff you get from GW is fantastic. We love them. That's all the normal Custodian Guard, the Praetors on the jet bikes, the normal Terminators. But as soon as you want to go for anything that's not the normal Venerable Dreadnought, which is it's just a Venerable Dreadnought. It doesn't have much more than a normal like Space Marine army has. Whereas you want the one which has got a sword and a shield, or a gigantic spear.
Well, let's talk about this Dreadnought in particular. You've done a wonderful job on it.
Oh, too kind.
As you can see, it's got a lovely big space on the shield, which is just fit for a transfer, which I'm going to give you because I've got a load of Custodes transfers because I use it for my Voidstalkers.
And I will mess up that transfer, screw it up on my paintbrush.
I'll give you 2. I'll give you 2 transfers.
It's very decent.
Enjoy the blade, the fading on the blade work there. It's wonderfully done, and
Thank you.
Also particularly tasty in combat because it has a flamer built in. And who doesn't want a sword with a built-in, essentially a heavy flamer?
A sort of a plasma flame or something, I think it's supposed to be. But the sword, it's just the whole concept of the Dreadnoughts are so good. They've got the option of having 1 CP spent to make them eternally penitent, which means they are a Custodian who has in some way done something wrong. They've very likely, farted in the presence of the Emperor of the Golden Throne or something similar.
Blinked once in like 12 years or something, or dropped his arse. The Emperor was temporarily
dropping your guts by the Golden Throne is completely unacceptable.
The beacon, the light goes out for a second while he's going. What is that?
Or rather, the light flares up. Like that.
The Astronomicon goes woof like you've just farted over an open fire.
Suddenly the warp is driven back for just a moment. Yes, but instead
Nurgle gets a boner over it.
I think we may have gone off piste a little bit off track.
Yeah, go on.
But no, I love the Forge World models are amazing. There are several different Contemptor ones. You've got 2 different Contemptors from Forge World. This is one of them, the Galatus. I think it's the Achilles.
What a great name, Galatus as well.
I know, and the Achilles essentially got the Guardian Spear that the others do, but just a massive version. The Telemon is the even huger one, and I mean these guys. I'm as anyone who watches these battle reports will know that we do. I'm a huge fan of scenic bases. These ones have all come from once again James March at www.March of War.
So it goes like this.
March
of War.
He's got a gang sign now. It was going to happen.
We saw him on a Winter's SEO battle report. He's done very well, and he's got some fantastic Tyranid scenery as well.
He does.
I would check that out because the stuff that they are producing is fantastic.
And for anyone who wants to get some scenic bases, he's a gentleman. He doesn't even have scenic bases of this type. This is urban rubble for anyone who's interested. For the jet bikes, he didn't have the correct size, so he immediately went off and made some for me.
What a dude!
What a gentleman! What a gentleman! So thank you very much.
If you can print me some money, I'll be grateful as well. Okay, so next unit we'll look at are the Terminators.
Yeah, the Alaris Custodians, the Lions of the Emperor. They are once again. We can only just say they're beautiful models. I love them. An awful lot of them are modelled without helmets. I've never quite got it. I feel like that's probably a bad way for a Custodian to die when he's that tough and got that good armour. But headshots happen. So I think they look better with the helmets on.
Also, as you can see from the video I'll be playing now, the helmets are so ornate in themselves. There's no stone left unturned when it comes to the sculpt and the detail, and the paint job you've done achieving the red is fantastic.
Thank you.
And it just breaks it up nicely. And check out the axes as they spin. Some lovely transition or fading work on the blades because they're energized blades.
Absolutely.
And everyone knows that I love a top knot, and I've got about 100 of these top knots for my own chapter.
Only because we can't have them ourselves.
Yeah, top knots are a distant memory. But do you know what? Abaddon did it, and everyone knows that he just clicks his on. So we'll go for that. So talk to us about the benefits of these particular Terminators. Called
Alaris Custodians, I believe. Unusually for any usually Space Marine force, you think of having the far better armour in Terminators. In fact, it's the same armour save as the normal Custodians because the Custodians are all 2+ saves. They've got this wonderful Aramite Terminator armour on general armour. Yeah. But the Terminators get an extra wound, and they also have the option of going straight into Deep Strike, which of course is so good, especially when you combine it with the old Golden Light of the Moirades that I just mentioned before. Getting them running in at full speed is fantastic.
And you can take a unit of 3.
I think you can take even more than that. I believe
but the minimum is 3.
Minimum of 3.
Like, for instance, teleporting down into quite a tight spot. There's the benefit of not having to put down 5 bases, I suppose.
Yeah, exactly. I love it. It can include up to 7 additional Custodians. You can have up to 10. I'm not quite sure.
It would be an absolute brick.
That's an army in itself. 10 Alaris Custodians,
but multiple scoring units of those would be really tasty.
Absolutely. What I love about them, one of the strats for them, which is hilarious, is I think it's something like For the Lions. I'll have to check what it's called. Essentially, they are so independent, you can literally make the squad immediately split into individual models. They each become an individual model, so nothing pisses off your opponent quite as much as a unit of 10 Terminators who can't be killed anyway, becoming 10 individual models. You have to spend a lot of points and shots trying to kill each one individually rather than those
there might be some tricks to be played there. It's fantastic.
Absolutely.
And what else have we got?
We've just got the Custodian Guard, who are very good in themselves. You can't go wrong. The average money is 45 points already for a single Custodian Guard. It's a lot, but they are bringing character level stats in the first place.
A hyper elite army.
Exactly.
They are all top boys. And again, look at the footage now. The blades, the Custodian Spear, an iconic Blanchitsu style, John Blanche style piece from the good old days. And they were always represented in the art so well. The imagery, but no, they never really did models. And people used to use like high elf heads on Space Marine bodies to try and create their own, or use great Grey Knights bodies. I tried it once; it just didn't really work out because I wasn't very good then. But these models have been around for a while now, actually.
Yeah, I think it was 8th edition. I think only in 8th edition they came out because old Gilliman going into the Golden Throne Room and saying
that's when they came back into. But they've been playable for a little while. They used to have a box set with them and a Land Raider. I don't particularly think the Land Raider suits their aesthetic because it's not ornate enough.
And frankly, it's not worth taking in the army compared to the rest of the stuff you can
get. The Forge Rod Flyers are quite handy. They're used a lot. I've heard in tournament play. I don't know the current state of affairs, but I don't even know what they're called. But they're fantastic, huge pieces. First of all,
massive. Yes.
So get a gold can of a spray can of gold for doing that job.
And speaking of which that's what's really nice about them as well. The Custodians, I think, for a new player, you've got a lot of options with them. You can actually start with the Custodians as a very simple army. You haven't got many things to paint. If you want to if you're beginning with 40k, this is a good place to start. You could get a can of gold spray paint, retribute to gold, spray the whole army and throw a bit of red on a few places, a couple of hair pieces, maybe a bit of black on a weapon, and you're pretty much ready to go. Or you can start developing further and further and further, and obviously I'm now trying to sort of take that a little bit further with jewels. They've got no space left unturned to use them. You can do all sorts of detail if you want to.
It's a painter's dream.
Yeah. And it gives you that option. It's nice to be able to have a bit of fun with it and be able to start doing either the basic stuff or going further along with more detail. But you don't need many models to start with in the first place. So you can really get going with a 1,000 point game. As in here, we've got 11 models. It's not a lot. I know, especially if money perhaps is a bit tight. That's a lot less to pay than perhaps you want to start an orc army.
A good, relatively cheap army to start with, especially to get that first 1,000 points in. And for me, 1,000 point games are where it's at, and we've got one due soon, which will be out on Monday, so check that out. But for now, thank you very much, Poshnik, for bringing your Custodes in for us to all have a nice gore pat.
Oh, no.
Stick around for Custodes information and action coming forward. We've got a bat rep using the current codex, pending the delay of the next codex, and of course that lovely new Primaris Lieutenant, Custodes Lieutenant.
Well,
yeah, he probably
most of them are in some way.
Insert your lieutenant jokes here. Blah blah blah. Coming out soon, available probably on eBay everywhere. Because
I'm sure GW as an official retailer will be selling them very soon
in a massive box, so you have to buy the box.
But lots of Gene Stealer cult.
For now, pound it one. Stick around. Warzone Morloc 40k, best channel you've never heard of. See you next time.
See you later.
Wonderful.